lost. See, the economy's growing, people are working.
You know,
Yeah, it's some bad places, but I'm just oh God, you know, in Detroit, Chicago, Los Angeles, yeah.
yeah, you know, I mean, it was nice. I mean, this is really seamless. I mean, yeah, it was using some of
And if he starts doing some stuff,
try to broaden the experience.
I'm sure there'll be some.
The old timers are supposed to
Oh,
remember
yeah,
that.
to catch up with it. You know, you can't just free for
Yeah, that's right, the memory.
now. Most of the
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of bizarre, isn't it? You have a much keener long-term memory when you're that
they don't like it,
My mother said,
which is kind of an interesting trend.
same book every day.
Pushing it forward. Okay. We want to take care of our planes. We don't need it. Well, you'll get some, but you ain't going to get the first dibs. And we impose it on you again. Yeah. You know, so as long as we're going total isolation.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we do have a quorum,
No, there was,
and I'm trying to, is
yeah,
everybody?
this set the appointment of two new people. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
We do have a quorum, and I want to make sure that if there are any special introductions we want to make, first of all, I'd like to, and I think you all have met her before or been introduced to Julie. So, Julie, from the League of Women Voters.
Voters, yes.
And we'll actually be discussing you in a minute, so thank you. And anybody else, and Mark's with us today, but you all know him. Anybody else new in the group?
Oh, I don't think you guys did meet Jenny yet.
Jenny
Jenny
Lyons?
Lyons. I'm the new web and publications coordinator for PPACG. So, hello.
Hi.
Welcome. Okay, we're still trying to get Bethany in the throw, so if you bring a motion or second it, please give her the name, okay? Okay, with the agenda, obviously we had some changes and some juggling around we had to do based on what some of the items were. We also want to add a couple of things that are not on here. In getting officers for next year, I'm going to bring this up now before we start into the consent agenda. We want to have a small nominating committee for those people that may be interested in holding an officer position next year. So, is there anybody that would be interested in serving on the nominating committee for that group? Okay, don't all speak up here. Thanks, Kevin. Hal, thank you very much, and I'll be glad to help as well. So, Bethany, if you can just make sure we'll get together. If you are interested in serving as an officer next year, please let Bethany know, and CC Jessica, if you wouldn't mind, and we'll go ahead and we'll have your names. There's the chairman, first vice chair, and second vice chair. And trust me, if you're a first vice chair or second vice chair, there's always an opportunity for you to serve based on everybody's travel schedules and other things that they are involved in the community or position. So we'll get together. Yes?
Clarification point. If our term as a member of the committee expires in the middle of the year, should we indicate now if we intend to renew, or should we, and if we're interested in an officer
Are you on the
position?
second term or are you on the first?
I'm on my first term.
Okay, that's usually not an issue.
Okay.
So, if you are expiring in the middle of if you're at the end of your second term, then we would need to have some discussion, so.
I don't plan to expire.
Okay, so great, we'll move forward with those, and please let us know. In fact, the other thing we needed to discuss was our December meeting. Right now, it is likely that we will have one or two things on, but we won't be sure until after the TAC meets on December 8th and what their agenda is. They don't meet on the 8th, but their agenda goes to them on the 8th. And ours is very reflective of the same things that they deal with. So, I think it's probably a bad idea to meet between Christmas and New Year's. Chime in if you're on there. But the other piece of it is that we can meet on the 21st. It would be really tough to meet on the 14th because the board meets that day. And that's just too tough on the staff. And a lot of the things that the board discusses, we need to be able to see what the impact is going to be on our group. So will most people be in town on the 21st? Kevin, you will be in town? Who will not be in town? Okay, one. Okay, well then, you're okay with, in lieu of meeting on the, I believe that, what is it, the 28th?
28th.
We'll go ahead and meet on the 21st, if there's enough of an agenda for us to meet. If it doesn't make a difference, the one concern I have is not being able to elect officers until after the first of the year. But we can make it work either way. Okay? All righty, we'll get those two things covered. Make sure you let us know. All right, you all have in front of you a revised agenda, and you also have in your packet the minutes. And we also have a membership appointment, which I hate to pull it out of consent because these are people we need to at least remark on their names. Juliet will be filling Roger's void. It's going to be hard, Julie. And I'm used to looking at Roger right here, watching his face. So, and then Rachel Beck will actually be coming in and serving for what was formerly the Regional Business Alliance, which will re-become the Chamber of Commerce again. You just wait long enough, things go back. I'm still waiting for bell bottoms to come back. So, other than that, Julie, do you have anything you'd like to say to the group or introduce yourself a little bit?
Well, so I know that you feel a little vulnerable when your resume is out there in public land. But hi to everybody, and I'm interested in serving because I'm interested in a lot of the topics you all cover, and I would look forward to learning to work with all. I can work with all of you. That's not a problem. Learning the topics that I don't know. So, if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask. Thanks.
So what we'll be doing, thanks, Julie, and you all have seen her. She's been to watching the meetings and keeping up with what we're doing. So we're going to go ahead in the consent agenda then and approve the revised agenda, the minutes from the last meeting, and the appointments of Rachel, so we'll get to see Rachel again, Rachel and Julie for their positions to be on the CAC, and they'll effectively start next month.
I'll move approval. Jim Moore.
Okay, Jim Moore.
Guitarro, second.
Fran, second. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Do you have a question, Bethany?
That's with the removal of item 12 on the agendas that you see, the item 5.
Ooh.
Yes, well, I think that was in your, okay, it still showed up on this one. Okay, I'm sorry, I thought it was removed. We won't be discussing item 12, the I-25 Castle Rock, the widening on the way to Castle Rock, which I'm sure will be a topic of discussion when we do have it. So we will be holding that either next month or in January, depending on when they're fully prepared. Okay? All right. One of the things I'd like to do efficiently, if we can get her together, is get our photo taken now. And what I thought we might do is just go ahead and take that front row of chairs over on the left and go ahead, and if we can shift them, and if we could have the ladies sit in the front row and have the gentlemen stand up behind. And then, Bethany, you're going to take the photo?
Jenny's actually.
Jenny is great. Okay, so if we could do that and get her done. Julie, you just hop in.
They're both empty. So please join me.
Good. How about you?
Yeah, right? Totally. please. If you can do that.
Oh, no, I don't want you standing on. I am worried about what this is going to look like.
Okay, Jenny, move people around.
Yes, I will. Let me get my wire.
Y'all need somebody to direct you.
I can do that much better.
Great self-organizing back there.
Wow.
Looks great.
Took us 2 months to get that done.
It took what, 2 minutes to get the whole thing done?
Great job. Okay, any other public comments? Things aren't on the agenda? I skipped it, that's right. I'm going to presume we have no public comments. But what I do want to do is recognize a couple of special people that will be leaving us after this month, which is a total bummer for me because I have enjoyed them, all three of them. But Al is actually sticking around for a while, and I appreciate you continuing your service until your replacement is found. So thank you.
If ever.
Okay. And, okay, Roger, stay right there a second.
Okay.
And Jenny, if you could get a few photos here. Okay. If you'd like to step up here, Roger. Roger has served ever since I've been with this group, and I really appreciate what you've added. And sometimes I'll look at his face and I realize this is going way too long. So I want to thank you for what you've done and served.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, you want to turn around here?
You bet.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Perfect.
Thanks
All
again.
right, thank you. And John? And I enjoy it because they always sit in the same two places, so I have to just watch a lot of nonverbal communication with these guys. But I want to thank you for serving your time and your service with this committee, and thanks for always being here as best you can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I think, Al, I'm going to save this. Okay? But I want to thank you all for serving when you do, and I think one of the things we don't do enough is celebrate those who have volunteered in the community with their time and their effort, and they're continuing to support us, read the documents, in fact, also be a part sometimes of finding their replacement or hanging on and continuing to serve. So we're really grateful for your service to the community and to PPACG. So thank you so much. Okay, the November Board of Directors report, the goal this time was to send Jessica a written thing so you'd have it written and it would be in your packet. Of course, she failed to tell me she was going to send it out a week early with Thanksgiving, so I wasn't quite prepared with my notes. But while I take a bazillion notes at the board meetings, I have to say there were just 2 or 3 things this time that I felt were mentioning. One of the things I thought was significant was that while Kevin was presenting the TIP policy changes, it was very interesting that the TAC came up and said, we're not sure why they have this policy. So this is FYI. And I was, well, it's, they come from a completely different perspective than we do and what our thoughts were, and I just wanted you to be aware of that. Also, I thought one thing that was very minor, but this may impact Ellen. Something that came up was the representative, I'm trying to think, Rob, who it was, about the painting at Woodland Park, going up 24.
Oh, for CDOT?
Yeah.
CDOT maintenance project.
Right. Who brought it up, do you remember?
I think it might have been the mayor, Mayor Levy out of Woodland Park.
I'm trying to remember, I didn't have that in my notes, but one of the things I thought was interesting is that he pointed out what a hazard it was. And there's nothing that says this lane is to turn left, this lane is not to go straight. So it's those kinds of tiny things that people can do and mention that make a change on how safe the community is. So it's important that we are listening to people in our community say, this is not good. Because how often do you hear people complain and then nothing gets done because it doesn't get mentioned? So speak up and speak out on behalf of our people. The other thing that I thought was very important was in the military installation discussions. Peterson gave a great presentation regarding what was happening with the contamination of the water in the Widefield security area. And I found it fascinating, given that we had some inkling that something was going on way prior, and just a hint of it. And there was a very good discussion about what their actions are as far as taking it. They're also drilling 25 test wells to be able to monitor the water. And as you all probably read, there was an accidental contamination that followed. And now that particular, it's being plugged so that can't happen again. So there will be no more opportunity for an accidental release. So they're taking the whole contamination of the water for those people, and there were thousands of people that were impacted, very seriously, and they will have a solution and have it cleaned up by middle of the summer 2017. So it's being done. It's being taken care of. I probably can't give you all the technical detail that's being done, but it is being taken care of. And those homes that need the reverse osmosis in their homes to take care of the water is also being taken care of. So it's getting done. A couple of dates that I thought were really important to. Pardon me?
Harold,
Was there comment? Oh yeah, go ahead, Hal.
Is the military and the base taking this? I mean, are they doing it as far as they can go in terms of the response? There isn't any indication or feeling that they're holding anything back from this?
I got absolutely no indication of that.
I mean, that's the impression that I had, but I wasn't there, so I just wanted to ask your opinion.
That presentation was specifically recorded by El Paso County.
Okay.
So if you go to their YouTube page, you can actually find the presentation from Peterson that reviews everything they've done and their plans.
The only thing I did find ironic is Fort Carson got rid of that type of firefighting material way in advance of something like this happening. So I found it interesting that one military installation had gotten rid of the contaminant and one hadn't. So I thought that was
That's the Army leading the way.
That would be a new thing.
football game's over.
Yeah, it wasn't good for the Army. Okay. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted your impression, because I think
That was my impression,
That's
but
very valuable.
Sure. And also for the CAC's knowledge, we have two programs here, Joint Land Use Study as well as the Water Quality Program. So we're going to be tracking it from PPACG programs and report back to committees and board as need be. So we're pretty, we're tied into it. So
Very good.
They're doing a good job.
And one of the things that I noticed Andy Pico raised, the chair of that committee of the PPACG raised, was that, yes, we are concerned about air quality and we are concerned about water quality, so we expect the staff and the state to let us know what's going on with both in our region. So there was he brought that up again and made sure that that was in our purview. Okay? Okay. Any questions? Oh, 2 dates. State of the Region is December 15th. So it's downtown, and I know Sally Clark is the keynote speaker, but given the changes in the community as far as business changes and the density, population density, that might be a good one to attend if you have the opportunity. Also, for those of us who are the outdoorsy types, December 2nd, the Manitou Incline opens again. It's going to be colder than all get out, so might want to wait. Okay.
I have that boot on my foot.
All righty, Mark. CDOT, Region 2, we're going to talk about the RPR and FASTER 2021 projects. I know he wanted to review and recommend. I found it a little tough to have
Recommend.
to recommend. Review,
Comments would be good.
okay, all right. Thank you.
But thank you for having me this afternoon. I'm Mark Andrew. I'm a little hoarse. Been fighting this cough for a long time, but I'll get through this. I wanted to talk about the Faster Safety and RPP program. And there was a request to talk about the 2021 funds. But with that, the 2021 funds are very a small picture of what we're trying to accomplish. And so what I brought today was all of our RPP and Faster Safety funds for all of Region 2. And you can get you've probably seen this, I've handed this out before, and we update this fairly frequently. We like to get a good sense of the community, what the needs are, and so you'll see some changes in the program for out years. For example, we may move money around depending on the need. Right now, we're pretty locked in with projects between 17 and 20. But beyond that, into 2021 through 2025, we're fairly flexible. We think we know what we want to do with that money, and we've put it on this program to represent what we want to do. So I'm going to go through it very briefly, but if you'll pull out this 11 by 17 handout, and if you'll go to a sheet that says 2020 through 2025, should be the last sheet. So I'll kind of explain how this works. Each one of these boxes represents a planning region. So we've got Central Front Range, PACOG, PPACG, and on the back of that we've got the South programs, TPRs as well. So we're going to focus on PPACG, but I'd like you to realize that these numbers include all of Region 2, and we've tabulated all the projects, and the sum of all the funding is essentially on the back. So you can go to the back and you can see a summary total of fiscal year 16 through 19 RPP and 16 through 2025 RPP. That's our 10-year program. And then a percentage of share. So as you go through this, you'll see, we'll talk about the total that each planning region is getting. So let me explain the funding. The RPP is our regional priority program. It really is the most flexible funds that we have. We don't get a lot. I think we get about $50 million a year with CDOT. So we get about, I'm thinking it's around $10 million a year for Region 2. So, and we get about $40 million in Pikes Peak COG over 10 years are about $4 million a year of RPP. So we don't get a lot of money. So we've got to be very smart with that money. But again, it's flexible. We can put it on any project. What we like to do with that money is really use it for design projects, to really get projects on the shelf, or fill the gaps where we don't have a funding need. So if we're short on a project, we may want to put RPP money in there. The Faster Safety Program, that program is really generated by safety needs. Accident picture comes into play. We look at the benefit cost ratio of accidents per the benefit that we're going to achieve with that improvement. So we have to go through a formula-based process to get that money. So you'll see a lot of these projects have a combination of RPP and Faster Safety with them. So what I wanted to focus on really was the 2020 through 2025 projects. So if you'll, I think it's the third box down, you'll see that first project, that's 20476. It's PPACG on US 24, and it's the 24 East Planning and Environmental Study. So in 2020, we're going to add $1 million of funding from PPACG to finish that planning study. So again, that's the most flexible. We use it for studies, we use it for design as well. So the next project, and by the way, that project is ongoing. We've started that about 3 months ago. So the next project, 20513, is the State Highway 21 Powers Corridor design. And you see in 2020 we're going to get $500,000, and then in 2022 we're going to get another $1 million. So the focus, looking at PPACG's priorities, is to look at research, finish the design for research, and get that shelf ready, and then look at other interchanges, possibly Constitution, possibly Carefree, Barnes, where those improvements would make have the most benefit. So again, these are in line with the board's priorities, and that's the focus, is to really use that RPP money to get these projects on the shelf. So go down the list. There was a request to fund a Woodland Park drainage and widening project that's out in 2024 for $2 million. The mayor tells me that project is on the shelf and is ready to go. It just doesn't have any money right now. So we programmed it in 2024. We can reach that money 4 years in advance. So in 2020, we can spend that money. So part of this program allows us to reach forward 4 years in the future and spend that money within that 4 years. So we can spend up through 2020 right now. We can't touch the 2021 money until this July. So we'd be in fiscal year 18, 19, 20, and 21. That'd be our 4-year cycle that we could reach out into 2021 and use that money. So going down the list, we did program $2 million for US 24 Ute Pass, and that really primarily was focused on the intersection at Cascade and some of the drainage improvements that we'd like to do. Okay, again, a board priority. Another project going down the list, I-25 Fountain to Colorado Springs, operational analysis. Rather than looking at an operational analysis, we would like to use that money to get a widening project on the shelf. In other words, go from Circle down to Academy and finish the environmental document proposed action. So take that from 4 lanes to 6 lanes and potentially get money in the future or compete for money to get that project moving forward. Again, it's a board priority. The operational analysis is something we could do with the funding, but we think that there's not a lot of benefits for that operational improvement. We think the benefit is to get a project on the shelf. So that really is your 2021 RPP money. So that's all you're getting in 2021. So if you, going down the list, we've got a regional water quality facility that's funded with other funds. It's just simply noted on this list because we're using water quality funds, which is not RPP or faster safety. Probably shouldn't even be on this list. There's a signal that we'd like to do at 85 in Maxwell. It's been a concern of some of the board members. So we think that intersection meets warrants to put a signal in. So we've programmed some money there in terms of faster safety. And then you'll see $1 million for fiscal year 2020 for the PEL study from Monument to Castle Rock. So it's been a board priority to assist our sister region up in Denver to keep that project moving forward. We've already put in $500,000 already. So again, we want to make sure that that's in line with the board's thinking as well. We've had a lot of accidents on 8th Street and 31st Street and 21st Street on US 24, and so we have programmed in out years to possibly identify and improve those intersections. However, we think we're going to be able to get a different type of money for 21st and 31st Street and possibly improve that sooner. But nevertheless, that money may be flexible, and we may be able to move that money in the future. So is there an interest to go through our 17 through 2020 list right now, other than, because I went through the 20 through 25 list. So I can back up and go through this first spreadsheet if you'd like. Yeah, Rob.
Yeah, Tim.
Go ahead, Rob.
You answer some of that questions. With the questions. Now, what we have in our tip, we have the two tips working. We have the adopted tip. So the projects you're talking about through 2022, are what you're proposing here different than the adopted tip?
Correct. These are out years. These are not going to be in this tip or STIP. We can only tip that 4 years. So right now we're only in 17 through 20.
Okay. So in that time frame, I guess we'll expect a tip amendment. Let's see, you have tip amendment 4 on agenda item 8 today. So another number, tip amendment to be, this will come forward after release for public comment.
Right.
So CAC, you'll see a tip amendment that'll capture all the project dollar changes through, we go through 2022 in the current tip.
You go through 22, we go through the 4 years, so ours is 17 through 20. But we're getting ready to jump into 2021, which would be our 18 through 21 cycle. So that's why we wanted to talk about 2021 projects.
We got you covered through 22.
Yeah, okay. So good. I mean, so that's one step that we don't have to deal with in the future when we program that money through 2022. So that's great. With that said, I want to make a note that a lot of these shelf projects are still going to be short money getting them on the shelf. So we've asked for additional contingency money from the commission if there is any available. So we put in another request around $3 million for the corridors to complete some of these bigger projects that we'd like to get on the shelf. Projects like research and powers, projects like I-25 widening from Academy down to Circle down to Academy, and projects on US 24 East and West as well. So as we complete the studies on 24 East, we'd like to be prepared to get another project on the shelf, possibly a widening project.
We have a question?
Question.
Sorry.
Briefly, in the first section, you have the 20946 on page 1, the US 24A wildlife fencing.
Yes.
Is that east or west of Colorado Springs? Just for clarification.
That project, let's see, trying to figure it out. That project shouldn't even be on here. That you're looking at a which page again?
I'm on
Page
page
1.
I'm under fiscal year 17 through 20
Okay.
for your training. It's down at the
Okay.
bottom, 3 up from the bottom, number 20946.
So that project, I apologize, shouldn't be on this list. So we were contemplating a safety project to install wildlife fence on 24, somewhere between 31st Street and Manitou. And we'd had some animal hits in there. The problem with wildlife fencing, as soon as you put up a fence, you congregate the animals, and you bottleneck them, and so if there's no place to cross, you create more of a problem. So the problem is we don't have a good place to divert the animals to, so.
Yeah, I was curious just what it would look like if you did, because my first thought was, would it look like Highway 6 at Golden, between 470 exit and getting on to 93?
It would look similar to what you see south of Ray Nixon on I-25.
Okay.
So that high fence you see with the crossing where animals can get out but they can't get in type of thing. So we would do something like that. But again, we don't have a good crossing to congregate the animals. If we do a project like Ridge Road Overpass, which is planned in the environmental document, that might be a good discussion we might have, providing some kind of crossing there in the future. So that doesn't mean that we don't have other wildlife crossing needs. We might look at I-25 north of Colorado Springs. We've had some hits up there too, and so there may be another look at that. And again, it's that faster safety money which needs that benefit cost to be able to justify it. So we need the accident hits to be able to fund the project. So we're always looking for opportunities like that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sure.
I'm in particular always concerned about the section of 24 west of Colorado Springs. As you're coming to the east, you find that there's a strip between the last Manitou Springs exit before you get to 31st, where there are wildlife hits daily.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be an area of great concern for safety.
Right.
Again, there's no place to put them.
There's no place to put them.
It's just a natural bottleneck there.
So some of the funding we have on 24 right now, it's the RPP funding. We are looking at improvements at 21st and 31st Street. But we're also having our consultant look at Ridge Road. And what we want to do at Ridge Road is possibly provide a three-quarter left-in, left-out, essentially. So you can't cross 24 at Ridge Road, or you can't take a left out and onto, because you're trying to cross high-speed traffic, and there's a lot of sight distance issues in there. But with that said, what we've contemplated was the possibility of overpass. If we could start looking at building an overpass, and then that would possibly be used in combination of just diverting traffic across 24, under 24, plus the wildlife as well.
If you do that, I was thinking a wildlife tunnel might be ideal.
Right. But, something like that's going to be very expensive. It's going to run $10 to $15 million, which is very tough to find right now.
Yes.
So I'll just briefly go through this list real quick on 17 through 20. So again, most of these projects are already in the works. So if you look on page 1 of the 17 through 20 list, go down to PPACG, and that first one is 20791. Again, the I-25 northbound acceleration lane at Academy is done. We just opened that up. The Cimarron interchange, about half of the RPP money and faster safety program went to that interchange over the next 10 years. So that one is about 50% done. We talked about the wildlife fencing. The Powers acceleration lane, we got an additional $2.2 million of faster safety, and that project is essentially done. I-25 North, the widening project, that was the old project where we widened from Woodman up to Monument. So that's just, again, leftover funding. So going on to page 2, the first one is 20933, that project at 21st Street. Again, we talked about the need for safety improvements at 21st Street, 31st Street. Those two projects are in line there. Notice that the 31st Street does not have faster safety or RPP, but it has what we call HSIP, which is another category of safety funds, which is a higher threshold of benefit costs that we can use. But it's, again, it's a higher threshold, so it's harder to get. The third project down is that corridor design project on 24, and that, again, that's where we're looking at finishing the design at 21st Street, 31st Street, looking at Ridge Road. And what we'd like to do is see if there's a less expensive widening project that we might be able to put on the shelf for 24 to go from 4 lanes to 6 lanes from 8th Street possibly to 31st Street. So that's the scope of that $1 million, that third project down. The fourth, again, is the right-of-way preservation on Powers, is we're getting development. We're trying to stay ahead of it and possibly purchase right-of-way that we will need in the future. It's been a board priority and a priority for City of Colorado Springs and PPRTA to try to keep ahead of development. Most of that money you see there is already spent. We've purchased property up to $13 million over the last 10 years, but that's just the residual amount. And then you'll see under that the corridor design project. We've got some money in outer years, and again, that money is being used to put the research interchange project on the shelf and possibly look at other interchanges south of research. The 21 widening Platte to Fountain, that project is done. We just opened that one up to traffic. Baptist Road interchange is done. There was a residual amount we owed on that. We did give a little bit of money on the Wellington Gulch sediment removal, $25,000, to be able to free up some of that sediment in that canyon that helped with some of the sediment control that we need on 24. The overlay from Constitution to Garrett, we added another $1.7 million for safety improvements to do some side slope correction, flatten some side slopes out there with a surface treatment project that we're going to do next summer. The 24 Manitou overlay drainage improvements, that project is underway. If you've been in Manitou lately, you've seen some of the storm sewer improvements that we're doing currently with that surface treatment job. The thinking is let's get the surface treatment or the drainage done and come back and do the surface treatment after that. Moving down the list, we've got a ramp bridge preventative maintenance project at Rock Rimmon. What we're trying to do there at Rock Rimmon is we're trying to get another $10 million from the commission to not only seal the decks but improve the ride through the whole Rock Rimmon interchange. We've got that project on the shelf, we just don't have money for it. So we've asked the commission for $10 million. That hasn't officially gone to the commission yet, so we don't know if it's going to even get there. But at least we've got a project ready to go if we get money. Moving down the list, 24 to 8th Street. Again, we're looking at improvements at 8th Street, possibly more. Maybe we can do more with the Cimarron interchange. We're looking at extending some through movements on 8th Street in Cimarron to improve that intersection as well with the current construction project. 85 in Maxwell, I talked about that signal. 24 East PEL, that's that planning study that we're putting on the shelf, and that's going to give us the ability to fund a project out there in the future. And then the I-25 PEL, again, that money is going to Region 1 to finish their project. So So basically what I want you to walk away with on this list is that the RPP program, we get about $4 million a year, the $40 million over 10 years. And so you'll see on the last page, it would be the 2020 through 2025 program. It says 16 through 25 RPP, and that's on page, well, it'll be on the last page. At the very bottom, you'll see 39.967. That's the total amount that PPACG is getting over that 10 years.
Mark, just a quick question. How does that compare to other regions in the state?
So we get, compared to other regions, of course, the Denver metro area region one gets a lot more. Rob might have a better figure. But I think historically, we've gotten about 20% the statewide of RPP, and we've gotten anywhere from 7 to 9% in the Pikes Peak area of that total. So, so we get about a typical region's worth. I mean, now we do have more lane miles, but than a lot of the regions do. But we have, less population than some of the other regions do, like Region 1. We're very comparable to Region 4, which is Greeley, Fort Collins, that north.
So the dollars spent in the Fort Collins region is similar to what?
Similar to what we're seeing here, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for RPP. So, and then we've got our asset management program, which I didn't get into. So our roads, our bridges, those are just strictly going to maintaining the asset. That is also a similar formula, but it's also based on lane miles and that type of thing. So bridge condition factors into it. But if you're interested, I can present our asset management program in the future as well. But we have several asset management projects that we're working on, several surface treatment projects in the future for the Pikes Peak area. So again, the RPP faster safety is a big part of what we get.
Right.
The asset management part is really the other part that we get. And outside of that, there really isn't a lot of additional funding for big projects. So it's difficult to predict when we're going to get some more money. But again, what we want to do is get projects ready, and that's our focus.
Okay, do we have any other questions for Mark on this document? Okay, do you feel like you can review and recommend for public release?
And again, I think we're just recommending the 2021 program.
Okay. Can I hear a motion?
Recommending we certainly release that for public comment. Is that what we're doing?
I'll second that. That's Kevin and Jim.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. If you
Sure.
want to go ahead and move on to your next.
Bet.
Everybody's always interested in this one.
Well, there was an interest in viewing the slideshow or the Fillmore project. The last time, I think it was a couple months ago, there was a request. I'm going to briefly go through this presentation. I think you've seen this before.
Yep.
But what I think is more important, I think what I'll do is, before I pull this up, I'm just going to show you the finished condition of the project. And so here's the finished roadway project or interchange project. And it went well. I think we were within, we actually had some surplus money that we're returning back to pools. So we were under budget. We were on time. Some of the things that really did help us with the interchange is we built in some of the contract documents that we could take a couple weekends and build up the embankment both sides of the interchange. And what that did is it really accelerated the project by up to 2 months. And so we essentially finished 2 months earlier. But what we're finding is a significant improvement on Fillmore in terms of that congestion we were seeing. We're still having some congestion between Chestnut and that first signal on the west side. And some of that might be attributed to the fact that we really need to look at the signal timing between both signals and then possibly having them operate as one signal. And we've asked the city to look at that. And what that would entail would be to provide a fiber optic connection between the two signals and really one controller. And have them, or two controllers that talk. So we could better queue that traffic and better, make that traffic flow much smoother. But on the east side, what we're finding is it's flowing very well.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Are you at all concerned about, now granted that the bigger project that was going to be up on Fillmore Hill is delayed, but are you concerned about the volume of traffic that eventually will flow through there?
No, I think there's two reasons. One is we looked at the future condition of the interchange and what it would handle. So we modeled it for 2035, 2040 traffic. And then we also assumed that Centennial will take some of that traffic off.
Okay.
So, and I don't think our analysis actually included the assumption that that would happen, that Centennial would be built. So, because it hadn't been officially adopted at that time. So we assumed that it wouldn't be built, but I think that just helps that future traffic condition. So, so overall, I think it's working very well. We were getting up to 15, 20-minute delays, and I think we're getting maybe 3 to 4 minute delays to get to the ramps at this point. The accident figures,
That's what
I've asked. So I've asked the city and our traffic unit to provide their accident figures to get a better representation, especially after we opened it up. I know of 2 accidents since we've opened it up, so I don't think we have a big accident. In fact, I think they've gone down dramatically. So before there was a new study that said we had over 100 accidents. Well, we don't think that that's accurate, and we don't know what period of time that was, but we had about 29 accidents over about a 5-year period. So that 100-plus number of accidents could have been over a 10-year period. They didn't say. So we're trying to figure out what the previous accident picture looked like and then the post-construction looked like. So.
Well, people are going slower.
They are going a little slower. They're getting too used to it in some cases, I think. Some people are going pretty fast through it, but so it's working well. And then I'll just briefly just run through this real quick. And again, the purpose was to really move that high volume, especially the high number of left turning movements we had. Provide that easier access. The bicycle movements were a big part of it, and the pedestrian movements, and I think we accomplished that. The single point interchange, we call it a SPUI, was about $20 million more. So we were able to get this project funded because the innovative idea of this project brought the cost down significantly. It really cut it in half. And that's really because we have to build less approaches and less structure. So, again, the crossovers, everybody kind of knows how the crossovers work. And then the efficiencies of the left turn movements, the free flow left turn and right turn movements really enhance the operations, and the fact that you don't have left turning movements at the signals anymore really help that signal progression take on more green time for that through movement. And so essentially what you're doing is creating a very efficient signalized intersection. two signalized intersections, if you will.
Question.
Sure.
Can you turn left at those off ramps?
Can you turn left here?
Left on red?
Oh,
Onto Fillmore? From
onto Fillmore?
There's no sign there that says you can or you can't.
Only when, okay, yeah, you cannot turn left. No, I think you can turn left on red. So when you approach it and it's red, you can turn left as long as it's clear. Yes.
So it's not marked.
It's not signed that way?
I'm there every day. I love
Okay.
the interchange, but I'm often wondering,
Okay.
there's nobody coming, can I turn?
Right.
Like, right on red?
So what we have up at Woodman is we have something that says, stop on red, then proceed, or something like that. So, yeah, we can look at that.
My
Yeah,
wife yells at me every time I
right.
do that.
Why are you stopping? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll look at that. And there may be a reason, specifically this left turn, I think, is the issue.
It's that left.
It's
there.
this left, right?
No, the other one.
Oh, it is?
Coming southbound on I-25, turning left onto Fillmore.
Oh, it's this one right here? Okay.
Northbound on I-25.
That's the one that I'm wondering about.
That's the double. They're both double.
I braved it, I did it.
I'm usually stuck
So-
behind someone, so
so-
it doesn't matter. I mean, unless I want to.
Yeah. You know, typically on a one-way, this is really a one-way road.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't think people think about it when they're.
Right. So I think the traffic laws say you can turn left on a one-way,
Onto
with a red signal,
From one way to one way.
one-way to one-way. Yeah.
And
But
it's-
I think it would help.
One observation, or if I could, two observations, is taking the same route that you just talked about, South I-25, trying to turn left or east on Fillmore. Quite often, particularly at rush hour, the bridge fills up.
Yep.
So there's no opportunity to turn left anyway. And then, the light sequencing doesn't seem conducive because you've got one left turn lane there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's only one lane wide. Used to be two, now it's one. And it seems like the top of the bridge, in other words, all the available space to, get cars in turning left onto Fillmore. I've waited 5, 6, 7 minutes and very little movement. I mean, the point is when you're sitting on that ramp exiting I-25, waiting is one thing, but you're only moving 2 or 3 cars because it jams up across the top of the bridge. If you could pass on to the timing people to see if there's some way of maybe extending the one that's on the other side of the bridge from the north side ramp.
So it'd be the northbound off-ramp turning
So it-
left.
Yeah, so it ends up clearing that space a little bit before the light changes. It's frustrating to only see 3 or 4 cars go through because it's jammed. Now,
So this
the
should-
time
yeah.
may be better. I don't know.
This should be green when this is red. I mean, it should always be green, so that's a question I'll ask.
you could
If it's
just
not,
answer that, because I've seen that 3 or 4 times when I go
Right.
through there.
so this wait, I don't think it's backing up that much, but you say you've got about a 5 or 6 minute delay.
On the other side,
Oh,
south.
on this,
This side.
it'd be that this is north, this direction
Yeah,
is
so it'd be
north,
the southbound. to the
Southbound.
eastbound.
Outside right there.
Right there,
right there.
And I have seen that backed up.
Okay, is it in the evening, or is it,
Yeah, it's
okay,
in
Late
the evening
afternoon.
rush hour, which is typically, off rush hour, it's a great intersection.
Does it clear-
It's unbelievably nice.
does it clear the ramp when the signal does turn green?
No.
It does
It
not.
backs up significantly.
So you're saying does this back up and you can't turn left?
Right, the bridge itself is full.
Right.
So this is really the issue right here, is trying to get more green time here, right? So maybe this needs more green time to allow that to clear, to allow this to,
Right.
Something isn't working right once it exceeds a certain amount of
Yeah.
volume, because the bridge packs, and then it doesn't clear,
Right.
the light changes, nobody can move.
right,
And I think that's it. There used to be 2 lanes.
And that is
Right.
one of
Come
And
the-
off
there-
that.
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I'll take a look at it. Again, it's probably tweaking the timing. The other thing that can influence that too is if we get a pedestrian crossing there, they could change the timing of this signal, which could back up traffic too. I don't know if that's happening, but
I haven't seen too many pedestrians.
more.
Mark, was there, let me phrase it again. I'm sure there was a lot of discussion about maybe the best solution would be to stop one of the streets that currently feeds into this thing. We got Chestnut, we've got, what's the one on the east side? Sinton. You've got just a whole bunch of moving pieces, and they're not very far apart.
No, and that's been the issue with Sinton Road. I mean, we ended up converting that to a right-in, right-out, because it used to be, it wasn't a full movement intersection. You could take a left into it, but it was signed as a left, no left out. So essentially it was a three-quarter movement. We took away one of the movements, and it's been very difficult for some of the business owners. And so we agree this is not a good location for that intersection. You know, it would be better if we could get Sinton Road across the railroad and tie it into Mark Dabbling and then do the same thing on the other side, but you're looking at building a bridge on both sides. You could do a one-way or two-way bridge on both sides, but you got to build two bridges, and that's probably going to cost you anywhere from $15 million to do that. So that's the solution, I think. But with that said, given the constraints that we had, this was the best solution we could come up with. There was a lot of fight to make this a full movement intersection, and it just wouldn't work. In fact, it's not going to work with any type of interchange we put in there, whether it's single point or tight urban diamond. It's just too close. And typically, we need to have that 500 to 600 foot space limit between the ramp and ramp gores and the next signal. So it's about 200 feet. It's too close. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but that was a problem.
And I greatly appreciated A being added to the agenda and for the discussion. But that was kind of my observation, was ask them to look at the signals and see if there's a way of keeping the top clear during rush hour. I think it'll improve things a lot.
We put in conduit from, I think, Mark Dabbling all the way to this signal up to Chestnut. We did it because we thought that maybe we would want to have some type of adaptive signal system put in, which really measures the traffic. And like you said, if we're getting this to back up, maybe you can measure this traffic and the signal can operate as one signal, essentially, or one program, right? So you might be able to clear this out much quicker and then clear out this ramp much quicker. So we did it for that reason.
Those were the observations I had.
Yeah.
Yep.
And thank you for allowing
No, that's
Well, that's
good.
fine. And Mark, if you wouldn't mind, we've got a pretty tight agenda.
Yeah, no
so
problem.
if you can wrap this up, I'd be grateful.
I thank you.
There's no problem there. One of the things I just wanted to hit on, again, was the funding, that the project really encompassed two projects. We had the Chestnut relocation that was done by PPRTA, but the application we put together really needed that in-kind match with Chestnut. So you look at the total cost, it was $27 million for both projects. We originally were going to do a single point for about 45, so we're about $20 million under that estimate. So it was really an efficient design. All right, that's all I had.
Well,
Thank you, Mark.
thanks so much
Bet.
for coming down and talking about those two different topics. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay. All right, Kevin? I have a question about this one.
Good afternoon, everyone. Kevin Reyes, Transportation Planner here at PPACG. So today we have TIP Amendment number 4 for the 2017-2022 Transportation Improvement Program. It's coming to us in two different parts. So the first part is coming from CDOT, and they are hoping to do some safety/maintenance along the US 24 corridor between Constitution and Garrett. Specifically, they are planning on resurfacing that segment of US 24. They're also going to reconfigure the Garrett intersection into a Florida T intersection, And a Florida T intersection basically has, when you turn left, it has a separate left turn auxiliary lane that's separated from the through lane, so it makes left turns a little safer. They also plan to replace the signal and change existing side slopes between Garrett and Constitution as well. And then reconfigure the lane shoulder and Z slopes, which will help with rainfall. And then they also plan to conduct a scour repair at structure I-18/BG, which I'll show you where that is real fast. This thing gonna go. So here's the structure. It looks like you can't see it too well, but it's a culvert, and let me just. So I believe the scour repair is going to be fixing this structure from erosion that you can see there, and so those are kind of those are all the things that CDOT is going to be doing. They plan to spend $2,780,000 of faster safety funds in fiscal year 2017, $286,000 of bridge preventative maintenance funds in fiscal year 2017, and $4,400,000 of surface treatment funds in fiscal year 2018, and $1,100,000 of surface treatment funds in fiscal year 2019. So that's CDOT. The second part of amendment number 4 is coming from PPACG. We're proposing to conduct a regional data summit with all of our member entities over the next several months as we get started on our 2050 long-range transportation plan. The idea of this regional data summit is to split the cost of collecting pavement condition data with all of our member entities. Since this is something that everybody needs, we think that this would be a more cost-effective way of doing it. So some of the things that we'll be collecting data for are pavement condition, traffic counts, crash rates, congestion, and any other factors that affect the region. And so what we're proposing is to use $190,000 of STP Metro funds in 2017 to pay for this. This is leftover money that we have in STP Metro. Yeah, we're just planning on using that for this regional data summit. And yeah, that's everything for TIP amendment number 4. If you guys have any questions for me.
Does anybody have any questions? I have one question. Not question, I guess it's a comment. These are such disparate actions being included in one TIP amendment. Mm-hmm. Is that common?
I'm not sure how common it is. This is only my 4th amendment here, but
because it just seems like I was wondering what happens. The $234,000 coming out of STP Metro. What was it originally cited for?
So that was just unspent funds. Is that correct, Rob? That is just extra funds we had.
Every 6 months, twice a year, annually, CDOT looks at the money that the feds give to the state, and
Right.
it gets allocated. Sometimes there's leftover money, or the estimate was conservative, and so more money came than we thought. The obligation limit at the federal level was off by a percentage or two, so that means more money or sometimes less money. So yeah, it's more, they call it a reconciliation. And so between that, we sometimes have more money, and we ask the local governments, hey, does anyone have any cost overruns or projects that we can apply it to? In this case, we've got a need for a lot of data collection by all of us in the region. And the third part of your question is, yes, it's always a diverse mix. It's like we go fishing for TIP amendments, and we try to catch. Remember, the TIP has those dozens and dozens of funding categories that anything happens at the state level, the federal level, the local level, anything that addresses a cost estimate or funding for a project could change on a moment's notice. And so we try to capture them all and bring them.
Okay, this is the first time I've seen it that different.
Oh, yeah.
But,
no, it's been different.
I'm a big fan of collaboration, especially with data, because it's a waste of money to get the data in 2 different places. But Okay, can I hear a motion?
Question, actually.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Is the 234,000 just what's left, and so it's being allocated to that, or how is that money being justified? How are you using it outside of just, I'm seeing a contractor, so is that, how do we know that it's going to cost that much to collect the data, or where is that collection?
We don't know. You want to answer that? Or?
No, I think that we don't have a consultant on board for all the data. We just have agreed to throw in our share, and that's all we have as a share. But the state share could be hundreds of thousands. El Paso County could say, we'll put in 200,000. So it's the group effort to do the final scope, which we don't have. As far as I know, we haven't got a scope on it, but that's the share we have available. We've asked the local governments, can we throw that into the pool to get all the data collection for whether bridges or pavement or whatever it is, whatever we can get.
I'm super, I love the idea of collaboration, again, I was curious about.
So for the most part, then, it's not a done deal.
Just what we're
willing-
actually going to be doing, or
Well, that will actually cover the cost of the data.
no. We'll have other local entities with their matches and possibly money from CDOT and everything. So this is just, as Rob said, this is kind of our share of putting it.
But once everybody kicks in, we'll have enough money and access to the data. All the entities will have access to the data then to get that done.
That's what the hope is, yeah. And we haven't obviously determined exactly what data we're going to collect. So that's kind of we've been once we get this approved by the board, we're going to have further discussions with all the entities and really nail down exactly what they need and what we need, and then we can see how much money we have and then go from there.
It's from a relationship standpoint because three of us did see the Urban Sim presentation, which is fascinating. But one of the things I was curious about was, is any of this data used to feed Urban Sim?
I don't think so. I think Urban Sim is more of an economics program. This is more of just the actual infrastructure itself and how.
Well, that's projections, but I was just curious is that if they do any projections based on former records about crashes, about flow, those kinds of things in that.
Jennifer, do you know anything about that?
Well, I mean, it sort of does because, so the travel model that Ken largely works on,
Right.
and then Urban Sim, which is the land use piece, are very iterative. We go back and forth every 5 years and put output from one and input from another. And so some of this goes into the travel model, and you can't really separate Urban Sim from the travel
Right.
model. So the short answer is yes.
How, you have a quick question?
Yeah, can you give us 30 seconds on exactly what it means to streamline the regional data gathering process that costs $250,000? Help me understand what that money's going to do.
You bought data before.
And I'm not a data person, so, I mean, is that like software? Is that like data entry? What do you get for $234,000?
So
Piece.
we still haven't exactly nailed down what each entity needs to what they want, but one example of a data collection would be it's called the International Roughness Index, and you literally drive a car through the city with a thing in your vehicle that measures how many bumps it hits, and that would be one example of data collection.
Traffic counts is another really big one we struggle
Yeah.
with regionally. Everybody thinks somebody else is collecting them, and we actually get down to it, and we're like, shoot, we don't have traffic counts for these roads. So I think that's the biggest one that we really want to collaborate on, and that ends up being kind of expensive to cover the whole area.
And then this also kind of helps to make sure that, if El Paso County does its traffic count in Colorado Springs, they're not doing it on the same road. We're hoping that people won't be doing the same thing twice with this.
So can I at least take from that there might be 5, 10, 15 smaller projects that are going to total whatever the end monies are that's raised with this? And in other words, there's no plan to go hire 5 people at $60,000 a year for this. It's
No.
It's specific projects that cost money.
Yeah.
Is that a generalization?
That's accurate. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Data collection has a lot of forms. Go
Question
ahead.
or an observation. Mark was talking about the crashes on Fillmore. With this project, and we had this in place, that would have that kind of data in a much quicker fashion, so that we didn't have to worry about see what happened as opposed to waiting and coordinating and all the other kind of stuff?
Well, we actually just got a program that analyzes crashes, and I think we're actually going to be using that. We're going to be sharing that data with our entities as part of this. But what that program is anytime there's a crash, a police officer reports it, and then that report goes to CDOT. And then the program we have takes that from CDOT and compiles it into this database, and then we have this program at our fingertips to analyze crashes. As you said, we can bring up any intersection that we want.
For lay people like me, it just seems like that kind of data is helpful to understand.
Yeah.
Professionals have you have other things that you need to understand how this thing really works. But when you're talking about, this is the traffic count, and this is the number of crashes, and this is the backups, that's what lay people think about. So as you go through this process, to the extent that you can have that limited information that, in a fairly timely manner that all of us can understand and access, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
I guess with the way the conversation's been going now, I got confused. It sounds, as I read this, it sounds to me like what we're doing is putting money together with other governmental entities that do some data collection and trying to find a way to do a cohesive modeling and make sure that we aren't duplicating effort across it, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does this in any way mean that the money spent here is going to have an output coming to us, or is this going to simply provide a new model for data collection across the urban area?
Are you asking if this is going to be something that we're going to be doing from now on as a kind of a recurring thing?
I mean, could it end up with, I don't know what to call it, Acme data collection for the entire municipal area? Are we, as a result of this expenditure, going to actually see data, or is this going to end up with the model that will produce the data going forward?
What's the end product?
What's the end product? Okay. I think there's going to be several end products. So from PPACG's perspective, we're using it as input for the factors that go into our 2050 long-range transportation plan. And so we have the FAST Act now requires us to use performance-based measures, which we've talked about, I think, last month. And we have to, we're now basically required by the FAST Act to collect data, but it's an unfunded mandate. And so we need this data as kind of a baseline to show exactly what our needs are in the region. So once we have this data, we can figure out what the needs are, and then we can go from there for our 2050 plan. But then the data is also available to each local entity to use however they need for their plans as well. Does that answer your question?
Not exactly, but Tamara's got the right question.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, they will have an end product where they will have an assessment of pavement conditions, crashes, traffic count, and then each entity will take that information and then use it relating to, for example, pavement conditions. Maybe the 2C in paving and repaving, they'll be able to gather information and know exactly what roads are priority, and they can use that data. The traffic counts for kind of the allowing for designs of roadways, and it allows the city to decide, okay, is this undersized, under capacity roads and bridges, or is this okay? Or can we downsize this road because traffic isn't really the highest they had anticipated when it was constructed? So I think that's what it sounds like, that the county and the city and everyone's getting together, throwing their portion of the money in, and we're going to have a kind of a global database, and then each entity can tap into it and get information, which is actually a really great idea.
It's a fabulous idea.
I didn't realize it didn't exist, but if this is going to provide that, it sounds like something very worthwhile.
Can I add a couple
go
things
ahead.
here? Because I think it would be helpful. CDOT does something very similar to this. Our asset management program relies on data. And it really relies on data to help us prioritize projects, because if you're given $200 million a year for surface treatment, well, you could drive all the roads and you'd have different opinions about where you'd want to put that money. So if you have a real good database that's driven by criteria, you can really set up a good asset management program. So I think that's what this is about, In addition, we mentioned the accident figures. We do collect accident figures. There's delay in getting that information sometimes, but we prioritize projects based on accidents. We don't get money unless we can justify based on benefit costs, like I talked about earlier. So you have to have the data to support that. So with that said, our asset management program is very similar. I mean, we spend a lot of money on collecting data. And we have people that go out and drive the roads. They look for congestion points. We've got traffic counts everywhere. We look for, opportunities to be able to justify the need for the funding and the prioritized projects. Otherwise, we would be flying in the dark, essentially, if we didn't have a good database. So I hope that helps.
Okay, can I call for a motion?
Okay, if I may, with the understanding that what this money's going to go for is development of a coordination plan.
Our portion of the pot.
Our portion going in, but hoping for development of a coordination plan and creation of a central database that we can draw from to address our issues. I would move that we approve this and move it forward for a recommendation that the board approve.
Thank you, Jim Moore.
That was Jim Moore.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yep, just stay right there.
I would like to have a report back on the status of that. I really think that it's going to be important to understand how this is proceeding.
It's always interesting data collection if you get a number of people to kick in dollars to get the volume of data. We used to use it with VHA hospitals. Everybody kicks in to get Medicaid, Medicare data, and then everybody pulls from the database to solve and do their own problems. We used to call it a decision support system. So, okay.
All righty. Next item here.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So the past couple of TAC meetings, we've had a couple members who requested that we bring up the existing NOPE policy that we have for the TIP and discuss it and have a recommendation on it. And so I think last month we didn't have a chance to talk about it here, but we have it here as a recommendation item this month because we had a couple TAC members ask us to have it as a recommendation item. But I will quickly give everyone an overview of what NOPE is and explain what the TAC did with it this month. So the NOPE policy was adopted by our board in 2006. It stands for Not One Penny Extra. It's a TIP policy. It applies to every TIP that we have. And it says that basically the idea of it is it says that if a project sponsor submits their projects to us during the call for projects, this policy is intended to make sure that they don't underbid their project because in the past they would score more points and then have a better chance of getting their project funded. And then later on they would come back and ask for more additional money. And so this policy was put in place to make sure that project sponsors did not do that and make sure that they bid their project with the amount that they think was appropriate. Excuse me. And some of the TAC members were concerned with this policy because a lot of times it's very difficult to accurately forecast how much you need for your project, especially when it's several years out in the future. So they have asked us to consider this item as a recommendation and consider alternatives to it. And so I've put some alternatives here in your memo. And I'll quickly go through these real fast. So the first alternative that we have here is set aside a pool of money that can be used for cost overruns. The second alternative is do a call for projects every year, but only for the fourth year of the TIP. The third one is project sponsors cancel a lower scoring project and use those funds for cost overruns on the higher scoring project, with remaining funds returned to the regional pool. The fourth option is project sponsors fund the design and environmental phase of a project locally, and they'd submit the project to PPACG for federal funding to cover right-of-way and construction. The fifth option is adopt CDOT's cash management advanced construction policy, which takes funds from future years and moves those funds forward. And the sixth option is for project sponsors to reduce the scope of work to accommodate the cost of the overrun. And the seventh policy is to continue the existing NOPE policy. So last month, the TAC recommended adopting CDOT's cash management advanced construction policy in replace of the note policy, and they also recommended that project sponsors have the ability to rescope future projects to free those funds up. So that's what they recommended.
Numbers 5 and 6, is that correct?
Yep.
Or 3 and 5.
Let's see here.
Hopefully it's 5.
No, 5 and 6. I think.
5 and 6. 5 and 6, yep.
6 I like.
Uh-huh. I should also note some history of this policy that I forgot to mention. So even though we have this policy in place, the board always has the ability to create waivers for project cost overruns. And so they've done this in the past, and the most significant example was in the 2016 TIP. This was during the Waldo Canyon fire. A lot of projects had significant cost overruns. So we had the 2016-2019 TIP, and this TIP only existed for cost overruns. So what we did is we added one additional year to the TIP, but we didn't add any new projects to it, and all the additional funding went back to projects in the 2015 and 2016 year to pay for their cost overruns. And so this is one example of, even though we had the note policy in place, we were able to accommodate cost overruns if it was necessary.
What's the challenge with the current process?
What do you mean?
To any of the membranes? I mean, why would we want to change it if there are waivers?
So the concern that we had with the TAC was the difficulty with accurately forecasting the cost of a project when it's several years out in the future.
I mean, acknowledged, but within that, if you're able to get a waiver from the board, why would the process need to change?
I mean, it's been working.
Why would we need to get rid of the
I mean, we've been doing
Yeah,
this since 2006. People have
yeah.
been projecting costs.
Mhm.
I mean, it's,
Yeah.
Were there that big a number of projects that were
Yeah.
impacted because of this? And they had to
I think the tax creating a problem that doesn't exist.
Okay, let's give Kevin one question at a time.
This is fun. Let's go in.
I haven't been at PPACG for too long, but from what I understand is we have always accommodated projects if they needed extra money. Is that correct, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, and Kevin, you have the list of things that we've used over time, because it's tough forecasting dollar amounts. But again, where do you draw the line to say if you really do lowball a bid on a project and say, well, we're going to add another $1 million to that $3 million project? Well, it means $1 million of someone else's project can't get done until that cost overrun, for whatever reason, isn't going to get done. But as Kevin said, the board always had the ability to say, boy, we need to finish this project. We're 3 years in. We need another 100,000, another $1 million. So as we did in 2019, most of all that money the board had available, the local governments had available, they assigned all of that money to projects that had cost overruns for any number of reasons. So NOPE allows for that flexibility, as does CDOT's policy. If you can shift money within those 4 years, if you're paying for cost overruns, obviously it means projects aren't going to get done. You're not going to add new projects.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I just have one quick question. Forgive me, Michelle. Just if you, project manager, I've had to rescope a number of projects before.
Mm-hmm.
If the cost overruns exceeded what my client had available. So does the board ever go to the project sponsor and go, figure out what you can do?
I think it's usually the project sponsors come up with that option. Board usually doesn't direct downward to say, we're going to hold you to the line, rescope it or find new money. It's more the TAC and the members come up with an idea, say, well, we can reduce a little bit of scope,
right,
find reallocate some other money, delay a project. So it's a variety of menu items to accommodate the cost of the projects. The buzzword is make the project whole. And you can do that either way, reduce the scope or add money to it or delay another project. So, but the board hasn't really said reduce your scope to whatever, because the board doesn't know. The professionals at the TAC and local governments will know, can we rescope something? Or can we delay something? Like if there's a trail along our road, we'll do the trail in a year. So they look at all different options to figure it out.
Okay. You have a question?
I was going to say, if we have a process that's working and we have a fallback for the issues, then why are we changing? That's
It seems like we're a solution in search of a problem.
Right. I mean, it seems like it's, I mean, yeah, there's, so you can't forecast out that far, but there's a process to fix that.
Right.
So why change things?
Kevin?
Does staff have a recommendation?
That's funny.
We want to hear yours so we can balance between TAC, you, and us.
Well, it seems to me like TAC, the members of the TAC are the ones who are proposing the projects. It makes their life a little bit easier if they don't have to really meet the financial goals. And so to me, it's, I think looking at it from a regional perspective, it's like, it's tough. You know,
Do your job.
And when you get in trouble, take it back up the chain.
Can't figure out an alternative, then bring us the problem, and we'll help you solve it. So I'm not in favor of changing the policy.
So I always state this, I'm a consultant for the city, and so I'm actually one of the folks who has to give a cost for a bridge structure that's going to be built several years from now. That job is very difficult because I don't have a magic ball that will tell me what the cost of materials will be in 3 years or 4 years. It does not tell me what the right-of-way acquisition cost will be because real estate changes. So I think from my point of view, and I'm not speaking for the TAC, but my thought maybe is where they're coming from is that there's 7 options, right? And every project they have to figure out, are we going to change the scope? Or are we going to go beg for money and say, we're not going to do this project and finish this project if we have $1 million overrun? I think maybe what they're wanting is something a little bit more systematic so that they can kind of move forward knowing, okay, if we have a cost overrun, we have to rescope this project. Or we have the opportunity to delay another project. I think that's my guess. I'm not speaking for them, but if I were in their shoes, that would be my guess. They just want some direction instead of being different for every project any given day. And as a consultant who has to give the value to the city or the county, it's very stressful in the sense that they're doing their very best to try to meet budget. It's just they can't control how much things cost of labor. So I think, I understand we want to keep to the cost, but as I think we all know on our own personal budget, we never know, from month to month, utilities change in cost. So I think we need to have a little bit of flexibility. So I would recommend that we go with what the TAC, because they're the folks who does this day in and day out. That's my, obviously I'm on the consulting side, so that's why I wanted to preface that.
Yeah?
I don't see a specific recommendation to vote on here.
Pardon me?
Number 7. That's what I see that as being a recommendation.
Well, I haven't
Well, no, but
seen
I
a
mean,
motion
just-
come forward.
Forgive me, looking at this document, I don't see anything that says that the recommendation is the following, that we adopt 5, 6.
Right, they didn't put a recommendation. I think somebody asked, what
They
did
want
the,
us to
they want us,
make
what are our
recommendations,
thoughts?
So, can I make a motion?
Well, I think I should add real fast about tax recommendations. So they recommended adopting CDOT's cash management and advanced construction
5 and
policy.
6.
Yes, specifically number 5. So this is a policy that CDOT does within itself. We're currently
One time?
What's
We
that?
did this one time a year ago or so.
Yes.
We actually approved pulling things forward without funding those future years, assuming that
Right,
it...
that's what Kevin was talking about. We didn't do any new projects for 2019.
Now this policy, which CDOT has, we're technically not allowed to do this policy. CDOT has not allowed this to happen, and they are currently in discussion of approving it, of allowing it to happen, but they said that it could be at least a year from now. So it's important to know that if the board does end up approving what the TAC has recommended, it could open up a lot more questions of, okay, we have this thing approved by the board, but we can't technically do it.
CDOT doesn't have that that cash management policy, or they do?
So they have it with, they can do it, CDOT can do it themselves, but as a MPO, we're not allowed to do it with CDOT.
There you go.
So it's not really an option.
Oh, so then it's not an option. I mean, that's just silly.
Not really.
Well, I think the reason why CDOT does it,
Exactly. So say not as I do.
we have a cash management system where we project on every project a drawdown. So we know what we're going to be spending the next month, the next month, the next month. And if we do that, then you can have this 4-year rolling budget where you can reach out in the future years and spend future dollars. It's all about cash in, cash out. So if you have a program set up like that, each entity, you could do it. But if you're going to spend future years, you got to make sure that you're not going to run out of money on a construction project that you haven't paid all the bills on. So that's the only way it works for CDOT, is our cash management system.
It's a motion.
So
I have a motion that we
Then
table
comment,
this.
okay,
don't think
I
we
would
have
like to, I move that we recommend continuing the existing note policy.
I second that.
Now, my comment that goes with that. In governance, a policy is a policy, and we have adequate precedent that's been discussed by several other people for making waivers to the policy for unusual situations. I really appreciate, Tamara, your situation. I would not want your job. I'm not, of course, I held a couple of jobs that nobody else wanted either. So, but the point is, we've got to have something that is kind of the basic, and then leave it up to whatever the circumstances are that generate. You know, we went through a period after the floods when asphalt costs went sky high, and everybody was having trouble, and we had to address issues. So that's why I would support continuing the policy and relying on past precedent as a guide going forward.
The note policy?
TAC doesn't like it.
Well, it started actually when I was trying to bring the first two policies through the committees, and they asked us to review current policies. And so I came back with all the current policies that we had, and they asked to specifically have this one as a recommendation.
Because we just approved the note policy not that long ago, as I recall.
Why this specific, are they running into issues, or, I mean, what's the, you know, what's
They needed something to do with that.
I don't think anyone's specifically mentioned any issues they have. This just came up because we were already going through the policies, and then I brought the current policies we had, and then that's kind of what happened.
A motion was called.
Yes,
And
and
we have.
seconded.
So unless there's another motion to amend it to extend the discussion or to table it. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Abstentions? Okay. All right.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask, we have 3 more presentations. Jennifer, pardon? Okay. Mostly because I've seen this before, and I think the entire group has, so
If necessary.
it's a once-a-year gig.
One.
Jennifer Valentine, Transportation Planner with PPACG. So you saw all 3 of these plans back in August when you recommended release for public comment. The board released it for comment in September. We had a 45-day public comment period and did not receive any comments. That's good and bad. We feel they were good plans. The only other thing I'll say is we are actively working to beef up our community engagement process, and you'll definitely see evidence of that early next year. But for now, we don't have any changes to these plans since the last time you saw them.
I move that we approve the plans as presented.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Go forth. Thanks, Jennifer.
We can be efficient.
Okay, 11, Academy Water and Sanitation District. I really want to get to Brian Vitulli's presentation. There's been a lot of interest in the the location of the terminal, so Pete?
I'll be brief. Good afternoon, all. Thank you.
Thank you.
The project before us entails essentially the shutting down of the existing wastewater treatment plant that serves the Academy Water and Sanitation District, and its replacement by, essentially, its replacement by a pumping station. And the wastewater from, all of the wastewater from the Academy Water and Sanitation, District that presently is served by their wastewater treatment plant will then go to the Donala wastewater treatment plant. This project has been reviewed by our Site Application Review Committee and recommended for approval by them. It's been reviewed by our Water Quality Management Committee. Likewise, the project meets very well with, it's perfectly in line with our 208 planning objectives, which focus on the regionalization and consolidation of wastewater treatment works, and that's exactly what this does. So the site engineer, project engineer is present, Mark Morton. If you have any questions, otherwise, staff is recommending review, approval of this project, recommendation of approval to the board.
Pete, I only had one question. That was it was just regarding you elected not to put in an emergency generator.
Yes.
If the worst case happens, what's the worst outcome?
Mark, could you answer that? Good question.
I lived on the Academy.
Mark Morton with GMS. We have an overflow storage pond planned for the project, so if we do have any kind of outage or mechanical difficulties, we'll be able to store the wastewater for up to 2 days. If that is not enough and there's an absolute catastrophic event, we're also going to implement basically a tie-in, a hookup for a portable generator to come in. So if there are major issues and the pond is getting full, there's still a second pair of suspenders, if you will. So we're still covered in case of that.
Okay. That was my only question. Okay. Any other questions? Ellen?
Are you aware of an existing available portable generation, power generator to come in? Is that already a system that's in existence, or do you have to design that in going forward?
The connection point is going to be designed into the project itself. The portable generator is just simply something the district can rent from any one of the rental companies around the area.
Excellent. Thank you.
Jim?
On the map that's on our handout, it's showing the Academy Water and Sanitation District service area. Is that the total area that is going to be supported by this new pumping station?
No, the entire district itself, all of the flow within that district will eventually go to Donala Water and Sanitation District, but only a portion of the Academy Water and Sanitation District is served by the lift station. There's basically a ridge line that runs through the district, so it splits it. Gravity flow goes either east or west. Okay. This lift station itself is only going to serve those that flow to the east from that ridge line.
And the Donala station is, where's the destination on this map?
On the very far west side of the Academy service area boundary, there is a connection point to the Donala Water and Sanitation District gravity system there.
Okay.
From there, it's going to go through gravity through their system to the Upper Monument Creek Regional Wastewater Treatment Facility.
Ah, all right. I see where you are. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any further questions? Can I hear a motion?
We'll go from there to there.
I move that we approve the.
Motion to approve, yeah.
Thanks. Us.
Kevin? Did you second?
No, I was going to make, I'll second. No, I only want to make the motion. I'm not.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you for coming.
Sure, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, if I remember correctly, the number 12 is canceled, so Brian. Thank you for hanging.
Should I say good evening, or is it almost evening? Good afternoon. Brian Vituli with the City of Colorado Springs Mountain Metro Transit. And I just wanted to give you an update on our downtown transit station relocation study. And we have a few slides to share. But I just wanted to briefly go back to where we started this spring when this project kicked off. We formed a technical advisory group and a stakeholder advisory group to help guide us along. The goals of the project were four main goals: to improve the system-wide operational improvements of the system, improve ridership and accessibility and safety, but also to enhance the rider experience and improve connections with other modes so we can have a true multimodal downtown transit station, and create a facility that's an asset that fits into the community's vision, and also to piggyback and to help keep going all the revitalization efforts that are occurring downtown. So those are the four main goals. We had 3 screening processes through this project that started with 29 potential sites, and we got down all the way to 3 sites. And we had our final technical and stakeholder work group meetings and our final open house in October. So we're done the public process. We just received our final report, draft final report that we're currently reviewing. So we're trying to close out this phase of the relocation study, and we'll be closing the loop with that technical and stakeholder group and the public with a nice closeout email, but then also put something on our project website, which is coloradosprings.gov/metro station. You can follow along on all the history of the process and where it ends up and where it's going to go. So we're going to kind of close the loop on all of that stuff. Thank our stakeholders and our technical folks for hanging with us and contributing. And now it's going to shift. This study came up with 3 feasible sites that can really work very well. And the first site here is Site 8, which is bordered by Colorado Avenue on the north and Cucharis on the south, Sierra Madre on the west, and Sawa on the east. So this is just as you're coming over the Colorado Avenue Bridge heading toward downtown. There's an old U.S. Postal Service maintenance facility in here. There's a surface lot which is under different ownership, so we're actually talking about taking this 3/4 of the site, and the configuration that the consultants came up with provides us with the 15 bus bays that we need to operate. So we're thinking we're going to need 10 bays for Mountain Metro operations. That's including a little bit of expansion as we move forward, and 5 bus bays for CDOT's Mustang service and some Greyhound service. So that was the minimum space that we needed, and that's what kind of filtered out a lot of the other 26 sites. It's the capacity and the room of the block. The second site is Site 12. So we have Nevada Avenue on the west, Weber on the east, Cucharis in the north, and then Bermejo in the south. So this is where the Colorado Springs Independent is. There's an old CHSP facility there. And again, this is going to be not the entire block, but what is in pink and in green. Pink would be for our operations, and the green, this is all owned by Norwood. So this site would, the first site, Site 8, and this site, it would most likely be a lease. We will not own the property outright because it's by Norwood, and then the Eskinos family owns Site 8. So there would be, an added level of complexity with arranging a joint development, joint use. So, but it is a site that works very well. It's right next to our high-frequency corridor on Nevada Avenue. So this site could work very well also. The third site is the 2 blocks of Pueblo Avenue. So this is actually, the northern block is just directly south of Site 12. So you have Vermejo in the north, again, Nevada on the west, Weber on the east, and Costilla on the south. And just directly to the west is the Pioneers Museum, for reference. So it's this diagonal street that cuts through the block. In the south block, again, it's that southern block of Pueblo Avenue all the way down to Cimarron and to Wasatch on the east. So the thought would be that Mountain Metro operations would be in the northern block, because we could have 10 bays there for our local fixed route system, and then the Mustang and Greyhound services would be in the southern block. So this is the only property that that the city owns. The city owns the right of way, so that would be it would be an easier project to get implemented. But of course, there's adjacent property owners that are going to have to be negotiated with, and that's kind of where we're ending up now, is to go into the next phase of going from 3 potential sites down to 1. And so coming up here very soon, there's going to be a mayor-appointed steering committee formed. Most likely the first meeting will be in mid-January, and going through June probably, have a series of meetings and actually just help us whittle down from 3 sites to 1 site to move forward to construction with. And I think that the mayor will be making that announcement very soon of who that's going to be composed of. Probably something very similar to the infill and redevelopment steering committee that city council led. There were a couple city council members that led that process. So this is exciting, and it's not. We're not looking at it as an obstacle or a defeat. I mean, this study ended with 3 really good sites that could work, but it also identified, how difficult it is to get something implemented. And we tried a different tactic this time. We've done 6 previous studies in 20 years, and we are still where we've been for 40 years. And all of those previous studies focused on 1 site, and it came to the end, and none of them went forward. None of them were implemented. Whereas 3 of these sites, we know it could work operationally. There's just an awful lot of details that still need to be worked out. And we're very hopeful that, with the support of the mayor and the administration to look at, or to care enough to form a steering committee to have us focus in on 1 site, that is a great sign, and it's a positive sign. So we're looking forward to this next step. And, I can continue to give you updates as that works. But
So I was just going to ask you, can you let us know how it's going?
absolutely, sure, yeah.
Are there any quick questions for Brian right now? I know I brought slides last time. I know Bethany printed some slides that Brian had sent me. So you've seen these sites before, the ups and the whys and the why nots and the strengths. I think it's the negotiation factor.
Right, right.
Which is the hard stuff. So, Al?
Right. Do you have a date certain that you're going to get a decision?
Well, we're hopeful by June. I mean, this is going to be another few months into 2017, and the steering committee will do their work, and we're going to be retaining our consultant to help us with any design issues or technical issues that can help inform the steering committee. But this should all be wrapped up by June. And then, of course, on to the next phase of acquisition or environmental analyses on the sites or whatever. But we're hopeful of, originally we were thinking the end of 2018 to have a new station, but, we're saying maybe 2019 now. But it's just another little piece of the process. Mm-hmm.
Jim?
Just wondered, is there any potential economic benefit to the project in looking at maybe public-private cooperation? I was thinking particularly of Site 12, the second one you showed us, where you've got Norwood has property around there that could be turned into some things, whether there's some cooperative that could take place that would benefit the city.
Right, well, yeah, both Site 8 and Site 12, they're going to remain the owners of those sites. So there will be, joint development, so they have opportunities for economic development there, but with our transit station incorporated with those designs. Yeah. Yeah, and the other part, sorry, for Site 17, the attractive part of that is that the city owns the right-of-way, and that can count a long ways toward us providing match for the federal monies that we'll need to construct it. So that would be our contribution.
There were some, and Courtney was involved with this too, and I got a chance to see a couple of the presentations. One of the things I was really impressed with is the out-of-the-box thinking as far as having the facility be something that people want to visit, had a lot more multi-use than just being a hop on a bus type thing. So I was impressed with the work that the team did, and your consultant did a nice job. So.
Yeah, good, we're happy. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, and please keep us informed.
I will. All right.
Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Actually, I do have a couple. If you get a chance, my name is Lawrence Martinez, part of the El Pomar Emerging Leaders.
Oh.
Also ran for mayor last year with John Southers, and I've ridden the bus quite a bit. Where it looks nice on paper, we need to make sure for growth. As it is right now, the bus service doesn't even serve the whole community. It doesn't go that far out. Its frequency is sometimes intermittent. Sometimes you can make a bus that gets on time. Sometimes you can take a bus to the bus stop and miss the bus you're looking for, waiting up to an hour and a half for the next bus. If they design this, they need to make sure that they design this so people can be inside during the very cold weather. The one that they have right now can't accommodate that many people at all. You see young mothers with little children waiting for the bus. You see older people that are having to wait for the bus as well, with really no place to sit down and wait for the bus. Growth. 15 bays may sound like a lot, but it truly isn't. If we don't pick a site that we can expand on as our city begins to grow and we do get the money that's needed to be able to reach out to the further sides of town, we need to make sure of that. And unless we get a lifetime lease on some of these other areas, they can come in and tell us, you know what, this land has just become more valuable. We're willing to demolish what you guys are given, and we'll take over the land and build some condos. As you saw last time before, if you saw where the bus system actually had to change a whole route because they had a neighborhood that was able to go in and complain about the noise of the buses, they were able to do that. So once you guys decide which way, how to spend the money, please take into consideration growth. It seems like every time we vote on something, nobody thinks of the next 15 or 20 years. And I think for this, we're really going to have to. There's a lot of people who won't even come to Colorado Springs or live in Colorado Springs or bring their companies to Colorado Springs. I talked with one company out of New York. They were willing to come out to build a 24-hour plant. They came out and took a look and said, wow, you don't even have a bus system that runs past 6 o'clock. We usually only pay minimum wage. How are we going to get employees to come out here if you don't have a bus system that runs that late? So we'll just move to Denver where that system does. So maybe we need to take a look at what Denver did and what they planned for the future to make sure we get this set up just right. Thank you.
Can we
Thank
get
you.
your
Thank you
name
for your
and-
comments.
And affiliation again, sir?
I'm with the El Pomar Foundation, the Emerging Leaders. El Pomar got together with different ethnic groups, Native American, Hispanic, African American, and Asian. I'm part of the Native American Council. So we get presentations from the city as well as those from the community that come out and they discuss with us what the problems are of the community and what we need to move forward. I've been with them 12 years. And like I say, for 3 years I rode the bus to see what the problems were. So as long as we make sure there's room for growth and improvement, I don't see a problem. But if we put ourselves in one of these smaller areas, we're not going to see growth at all.
Good point. Thank you. Go ahead, Fran.
Comment, when I was down there talking, a couple of us were down there, the drivers didn't have time to go to the bathroom because they had like one stall, so they missed and they got to get back on the bus, and they don't have relief tubes, so that's another expansion. The toilets were atrocious down there.
Yes, very much so. And here's the other thing, too, that we really need to look at also substations as well. Substations that can handle the overload when we have certain passengers that are boarding. If we can put, as an example, Hancock and Academy, you've got the King Supers there, right? If we could put a place in which other people can park their vehicles there and be able to get on the bus there, it would become more attractive for them to be able to go out to the other side of town. But regularity on the system and the schedule itself is so intermittent, professionals won't ride the bus. Take a look and say, "Nah, you know what, I'll spend all that time in congestion than I would rather on the bus."
Thank you. Good questions. Good comments. Thank you. Fran?
Anything else?
Look forward to
Yeah, okay.
keeping in touch.
All right,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I appreciate everybody sticking around, a few minutes late, and I look forward to seeing you on December 21st if we have a significant agenda, and I'll be contacting the nominating committee regarding officers, so if you are interested, we're going to try and have everything put together by that meeting, so let us know as soon as you can. In the next week, I'd prefer that in the next week so your name is in there. Yep, Ellen?
The agenda says December 28th.
No, that would be normal. Before you came in, we discussed pulling it back to the 21st.
Thank you.
Yep. And Bethany, if we could please send out an email to the entire CAC regarding interest in officer positions, please, then I'll get together with Kevin and Hal and get it worked out. Okay? Thank you. Hey, thank you, everybody. Hopefully I'll see you before Christmas, but if not, have a fabulous Christmas. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Oh, Christmas, I'm not ready for that.